I'm gonna reroute the thermo drive.
Electronic mail failure.
Stored forever in a virtual library.
Computers can't swim.
They can now.
The data termites. The website. It's alive.
Movies
And mainframes.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Movies and Mainframes, the podcast that is going to explore and discuss the representation of technology in media. I am your host, Andy, and today we have a very special guest in the studio. Let's introduce him, Rob Hawk. How you doing today, Rob?
Hi, everyone. So, I'm Rob Hawk, a self-loathing IT guy.
Rob, I haven't seen you in quite a few years. Listeners, a little background of me and Rob worked at SolarWinds for a period of time back in the day. I was on the video team, and Rob was one of our go-to people if we needed someone to be funny on camera, to be charming on camera, to be handsome as hell on camera. We would ask Rob to be in these videos, and he was gracious enough to grace us with his presence. And it has been a long time. I can't wait to talk to you about what we watched today. But first, Rob, just so our listeners know a little bit about you, can you give us the elevator pitch of where you started in your career and where you are at today?
Yeah, absolutely. And great to see you again, Andy. It's been far too long. So I'm Rob Hawk, as I mentioned, self-loathing IT guy. So I've been in IT for a long time. So started off at a college. I started in MSP and had a pretty good business for about 4 or 5 years, and then moved to Austin, Texas, where I helped manage a data center for a Fortune 500 company, and that was a lot of fun. And that was before I then went to SolarWinds and helped run internal IT for SolarWinds. So that was crazy, as you may imagine, running IT for an IT management company. So that was fun. And then I moved to the dark side of product management, where I helped manage NPM and the core product for SolarWinds. I did that for quite a few years. So now, fully on the product side, love IT management, love nerding out. So super happy to be here tearing apart some golden oldies.
Now that you know a little bit about Rob, I think it is time that we talk about what we watched today. And what we watched today is something very, very special, because we did not watch a movie. We did not watch a television show, although its creators called it the world's first cyber sitcom. What we watched today is the Microsoft Windows 95 video guide. And this thing was directed by Dominic Rossetti, and it stars Jennifer Aniston and Matthew Perry. Now, listeners, if you are not familiar with this, and honestly, why would you be? But if you are not familiar with this, do yourself a favor. Stop this podcast right now. Go onto YouTube and just search for Windows 95, Jennifer Aniston, Matthew Perry. It'll be the top hit. This thing is 55 minutes long, and it is a video guide, and it's broken into 3 sections. The first section is a 30-minute, what they call a cyber sitcom of Jennifer Aniston and Matthew Perry learning about the new features of Windows 95. And then the last 25 minutes is just a straight-up video tutorial on the features. But if you've never seen it, just scrub through it. Unless you're a glutton for pain like I am and you watch the whole thing, just scrub through it. After a couple of minutes, you'll get the idea. So do that now if you've never seen it, and come back to this podcast. Listeners, whenever I invite a guest on, I send them a master list that contains like 70 movies, a handful of television show episodes, and some other media. And I encourage them, if there's something not on the list, we can talk about that as well. Rob, I sent you the list, and out of everything that was available, you chose this. Why? Why did you choose this Windows 95 video guide?
Well, perhaps dating myself, but I just thought it was a spectacular time capsule. And I mean, I'm not going to go into how old I am necessarily, but Windows 95 came out at a time where I was still using DOS 5.0, and I was like, who needs a GUI? And like FAT32, what the heck is that? FAT16 is good for me. So yeah, it was really good to watch this tutorial of like where Chandler's sarcasm meets Rachel's computer literacy, and go back to the good old days of Friends. So
had you ever seen this before?
I had not, and I thought like Bombers, developers thing was a low point in terms of Microsoft ad and video content, but this set the bar really high.
I was familiar with it at the time that this video came out. I worked at CompUSA just as a working the register, working in customer service. So I remember these VHS tapes being in CompUSA. And the craziest thing to me is that this is just a promotional tool. It's an hour-long infomercial, and they expected you to purchase it. Like, I understand, I know for a fact, like sometimes if you bought a copy of Windows 95 or you bought a new computer that had Windows 95 preloaded on it, some of the managers would, throw you a bone and give you a free copy. But otherwise, like, we had a kiosk and you were expected to purchase it. And I just think that's insane. But I guess if you have Jennifer Aniston and Matthew Perry in it, you can sell it, no problem. But I had never seen it until YouTube came around. And I had actually never watched it all the way through until we were preparing to do this podcast. And oh boy, it's something.
I can't even imagine, being a teenager in 1995 and, trying to educate your parents on, the hot new thing on your IBM PS2 and going, you know what? Never mind. Just watch this video.
Exactly. Don't worry. Let Chandler and Rachel tell you. So yes, the first 30 minutes of this is a cyber sitcom. It is 30 minutes of, the premise is Matthew Perry and Jennifer Aniston show up to Redmond, Washington, to the Microsoft headquarters. They're going to talk to Bill Gates about Windows 95, but of course, Bill Gates is not there. And I think it's very telling that Bill Gates never makes an appearance in this video. Only the people contractually obligated to be in this video are in it. And who do they meet? Well, they meet a revolving door of zany characters. And the first one they meet is Bernice, which is supposed to be Bill Gates's trusted secretary. This thing follows to the T the model of infomercials at the time, where nobody could just be a straightforward person. Nobody could be a regular human being. You had to be a zany character. And I always wonder, is it the producers of these videos who want the zany characters, or if they just, they create the characters, or if they just hire, competent actors and just let them, hey, just do anything you want, man. Feel it. Feel the muse. Just let it in. Because we have Bernice, who is the no-nonsense older woman who doesn't have time and is very sarcastic. Then we have Boris, the Russian literal window cleaner. Get it? And he is, of course, that typical guy who comes in and eats all your snacks, sits on your couch. And then we're introduced to Joystick Johnny, Chipster, Jeff Lee, who's just not even borderline, just racist. And then we have some garage band that shows up at the end for the last 2 minutes. And each person along the way will tell us and show us a new feature about Windows 95. Just to give you an example, the opening to this, the narrator says that Matthew Perry and Jennifer Aniston in the world's first cyber sitcom, along the way, they meet a bunch of wacky propeller heads. Great line.
It's a similar setup.
First thing I noticed when we get into Bill Gates' office is that Bill Gates uses the clapper. He has the clapper for his lights, not some kind of automation. Well, I guess, he just uses the clappers. So that's great. He's on the bleeding cutting edge. The production of this video, anytime anyone has a zinger, a one-liner, any kind of joke, it is accompanied by an acoustic guitar lick. So it doesn't blend well with the comedy. It feels like some weird
Power Rangers-esque.
Matthew Perry will say something, could this be anymore? Whatever. And then you just hear, and yeah, it's good stuff. Bill Gates uses an ergonomic keyboard. So good to know there.
he's concerned about carpal tunnel, as it were. I mean, to be honest, I think I blame Seinfeld for this.
Absolutely. And in fact, as the video goes on, the acoustic guitar licks turn into the Seinfeld keyboard bass licks, all that kind of stuff. And speaking of Seinfeld, the writer for this, the credited writer, is a person named Jonathan Gross. And one of his few credits is an episode of Seinfeld. He wrote season 6. Yeah. He wrote season 6, episode 20, Fusilli Jerry, which I am familiar with. Jerry has the Fusilli, pasta art of him. And so he wrote that episode, the only episode he wrote for Seinfeld. And yeah, you can feel it all over the place in this video. But man, what follows for the next 30 minutes is MTV canted angles. Nothing is locked down. This camera is moving. It's going crazy. Zany characters and tired jokes. I mean, some of these jokes were tired during Sid Caesar's day. And they're all groaners.
Yeah, the road to technical hell is filmed in a 4:3 aspect ratio here. It's it's jarring.
And when you're watching it, you just can't help but get the sense that Matthew Perry and Jennifer Aniston do not want to be here. They're fresh off of season 1 of Friends, so they are now full-blown superstars. Season 1 of Friends was huge. It just skyrocketed them into stardom. I'm sure they signed these contracts before they knew how popular they were, or Microsoft threw a lot of money at them. Speaking of which, the ad campaign, the marketing push behind Windows 95, they put $150 million into the marketing push. They had retailer partnerships with CompUSA. They had placement on QVC and Home Shopping Network. That should tell you the time. And they made 5 million copies of this video for sale, ready to go.
I think it's remarkable that their careers managed to rebound off of this, but maybe nobody saw it, and that's just a blessing in disguise right there.
For sure. If this actually aired, they would have taken a hit, for sure, and their credibility. But the fact that you were expected to buy an infomercial at a computer store, I doubt many people saw it. So Bernice is taking us through some of the new features of Windows 95, and I just love it because it's the time. It's 95. These were awesome new features with the, you can have multiple windows open, minimized into the taskbar. One of the things that I really thought was funny is one of the windows she opens and she goes, oh, and you can listen to music while you're doing work. And she then plays a MIDI version of Bach that's just playing in the Microsoft audio player. And all I could think was like, yep, that's what I want to listen to while I'm working, is just MIDI versions of classical music. Sounds really good.
The funny part is, like, at that point in time, probably 25% of PCs even had sound cards. Other than that, you're just hearing some random beeping coming out of the box.
Our next character that's introduced is Boris, the Russian window cleaner. He's an actual window cleaner. Ha 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 ha. And immediately with his introduction, bat jokes, just right off the bat, just getting right to it. The whole time this video is happening, and I know it's because it's in the 90s and it's sarcastic, especially in the 90s, and with Friends, everything was very sarcastic. But while watching this video, it's so mean-spirited. Every interaction they have with other characters is just either putting them down, making fat jokes, making jokes at their expense or looks. And it's like, Jesus, lay off these people, Matthew Perry, give them a break. Boris, the thing that he shows everybody is the plug and play feature, new with Microsoft Windows 95. And he just puts in an unmarked CD for the installation, which I love. The whole time these people are on Bill Gates' computer. Everyone is on Bill Gates' computer, and they're just logging into different accounts. They are installing new peripherals or new programs, and no security whatsoever. It's just, Bill leaves his computer unlocked. Bernice lets anybody use it.
I was impressed that they at least shut down the machine, because parallel ports were never hot swappable. I don't know how many times you end up with some sort of fried motherboard based on that, because it carries a charge or static, and like bad things happen. I also like all the UX cringe throughout this whole scene.
Yes.
So not only are you clicking start to shut down, which is the running joke, but then it highlighted a thing I totally forgot about, was the incredibly awful auto detecting plug and play, where no matter what it found, it would always pop up like this big red X and say, whoa, stop, there's a problem. It's like, no, you're just installing new hardware, but I'm really anxious right now. And of course, it never worked.
Our next character that's introduced is Chipster. I can't remember what Chipster's role in the organization is, but Chipster is going to show us the internet. That is his whole shtick, and he actually says the information superhighway. Whenever he said it, I turned into the Leonardo DiCaprio meme of pointing at the screen. He said the thing. He said the thing. Yes. This is amazing. Bold introduction to Chipster. Right off the bat, his introduction to his character is that he promises he won't sexually harass Jennifer Aniston while he's showing her the computer. He says, don't worry, I'll keep both hands on the keyboard. And of course, Jennifer Aniston is rightfully disgusted. And it's just like, all right, that's a great introduction to a character. Very endearing. Let's get it right on.
Can you pack in there?
Yeah, exactly. For a promotional tool, and it's not me being sensitive, it's just, this is corporate. And within under 5 minutes, Matthew Perry makes his first masturbation joke. And then at the 20-minute mark, he makes a joke about sexually experimenting in college. It's all through innuendo and everything, but it's just like,
I missed that one.
And he makes several references to the brown acid. This is great promotional material.
That make it legal.
One thing that when Chipster gets on the information superhighway, one of the first things he does is pull up a cat picture, which I was like, damn, the internet and cats have been a thing since the very beginning. And he uses Bill's computer to log into his MSN account so he can get onto the internet. And that brought me to, remember when you had to not only pay your provider or, for your phone line, you had to pay for browsers. That's insane to me. Like, if you wanted to use Google Chrome, you had to pay for it, or Firefox.
One thing that I missed from this, I didn't hear the dial-up sound.
I know.
Give me some handshake screeching, just to give me that nostalgia.
Matthew Perry has a great line in this, and I get it. It's all the sign of the times. But he says, "Hey, how about we send an email over the internet to my buddy?" Yeah,
it's a series of tubes.
One of the cool features that Bernice shows the crew is that, hey, you can fax from the computer. Jennifer Aniston is blown away by this. They are hungry. It is lunchtime, so they are going to order some Chinese food. So they pull up a menu for the dim sum enchanted evening. They mark off what they want, and then they're going to fax it. They show us the fax number. Of course, it is 555, but the area code is 206. 206 is Seattle, usually the northern part of Seattle. The headquarters for Microsoft is in Redmond. Now, I don't know the geography that well, so I get onto Google Maps, and during lunchtime, that's going to take that guy 30 minutes to drive there. So is that the closest place, or does Bill just love Enchanted Evening that much? Either way, he better be a big tipper.
Not gonna lie, I actually Googled it to see if it still existed. I think that would be amazing. And no, either it was fictional or went out of business a long time ago.
Yeah, I believe it was fictional. I did the same thing. Another thing I did was Matthew Perry says, "Hey, we should email over the internet my buddy who's in a band at Tim at harsh.com for like Harsh Records, some, like grunge band or something like that." I emailed that just for research purposes, and a day later I got undeliverable, so I'm very bummed.
That's a shame.
Tim at harsh.com.
I thought you were going to surprise me for a second and bring Tim on, and here he is.
So they email they fax this dim sum place for lunch. This video pretty much takes place in real time. 5 minutes later, the Chinese food delivery person arrives, and it is very problematic. He shows up on a bike. He's wearing a, Chinese dragon New Year style headpiece. They're playing essentially gong music while he comes in. And his name is Jeff Lee. And Matthew Perry has the line, "Hey, the Steven Seagal fan club is in the other room." And I couldn't tell, is saying Steven Seagal instead of Bruce Lee, is that more racist or less racist? I don't know. Either way, the whole thing's problematic.
Even by 1995 standards, I have to imagine that some of these probably were not too awesome.
Yeah, in very poor taste. Like even in the 90s, whenever a character of Asian descent would be on camera, and then we're all familiar with the 80s and 70s where whenever that would happen, you would hear that gong noise, like after they said something or a joke or whatever. I'm thinking specifically of like Long Duck Dong from 16 Candles. And yeah, it was bad then and, caused problems then. Here we are in 1995 and we're still doing the same thing, but it's okay because it's a white guy. And it's Chandler and a slightly dour Jennifer Aniston. Jeff Lee, the delivery man, he is going to show us how you can personalize your Windows 95 experience by showing us one of the things he shows us is themes. Big thing, huge thing. And he changes the desktop to 60s theme, which I remember that. And oh my God, what an eyesore. Like, how can you look through all that tie-dye lava lamp, peace symbols instead of computer icons? It's oof.
We didn't get to see the 3D screensaver though. I was kind of bummed about that.
Joystick Johnny shows up. Joystick Johnny is actually, I recognized him. I was like, that guy is familiar. Look him up. It's Sam Huntington, who our listeners might know from Not Another Teen Movie and Veronica Mars. He's here in 1995 as a kid, playing Joystick Johnny. He's rocking rollerblades and a helmet with a rear view mirror on it. He's serious, and everybody fears him. He's basically the "I want my $2" kid from Better Off Dead. And he is going to show us the wonderful world of built-in 3D pinball, which they brought that up, completely forgot about 3D pinball. And I was like, oh man, I want 3D pinball back. That was cool.
Yeah, that was actually probably the one thing that tugged at my heartstrings a little bit. I was like, yeah, that was all right. Yeah, could have done with more of that.
Yeah, I got a couple of minutes to kill. 3D pinball, why not? Yeah, it's going to be great.
Now we're stuck with Minesweeper and Minesweeper clones, and gotcha, getting done.
At the end, Tim shows up with his band, and they're in it for the last couple of minutes, and Jennifer Aniston presses the big red button that she was told not to press, and then all the zany characters get sucked into the computer. Another brown acid joke is made, and then the cyber sitcom is over. What follows for the next 25 minutes is just a straightforward video tutorial, which takes half the amount of time to show us the same features, and I would argue is more entertaining or easier to watch.
The Queen of Death would have been easier to watch.
Watching this all the way through and having to take notes was pretty rough for me. I experienced what I can only describe as time dilation while I was watching this. I remember early on, whenever I'm watching something, sometimes I'll pause it so I can look up something that, an idea sparked in my head and I need to track something down for research, or I'm just making a note. And early on, I paused this to take a note, and I saw that only 8 minutes had passed. And I swear to God, it felt like 30. No joke. I was like, are you kidding me? And then the 30 minutes is over, and I had that same feeling that you get whenever you walk into a movie theater and it's bright outside, And then when the movie's over, you come out and it's dark, and you just have that moment of like, oh my God, I'm in a different world, a different time. And that's what it felt like after watching this. It feels like I have 2 chapters to my life now, where it's before the Windows 95 video guide and now after.
That's how you know it was true art. It transported you to another place.
Yeah. Speaking of true art, the director of this is Dominic Rossetti. I was hoping I could find more information on him. No, this is his only directing credit that I could find.
He's also removed all trace of himself from the internet after this.
Exactly. I was looking for him on LinkedIn. Hopefully, I was like, oh, I got to reach out to this guy. I got to ask him questions.
And this is.
Yes, exactly. And then, as I mentioned, the writer of this is Jonathan Gross, who wrote the episode of Seinfeld. By the way, listeners, if you want to own a copy of this, eBay has copies of this for sale for the low price of $74.99.
Does it come with an AOL 3.0 CD?
You wish. No, that's extra. What are your thoughts on this after you finished it, Rob? Did you enjoy it? Was it silly, nostalgic?
Man, that has been an hour of my life I will never get back. But
right.
That being said, it did transport me back to another place. If this thing was like any more 90s, like I'm gonna be digging around for my slap bracelet collection and getting my Game Boy out. Like it was really amusing in that regard. And just thinking about how far we've come from a just like desktop perspective, to be perfectly honest. And we're able to record this in a browser using like WebRTC, remotely miles and miles away, versus, holy heck, like the whole tutorial for Windows 95 was basically like, well, it didn't work, turn it back off or slap the side of the monitor and hope it works again. It was a different time and place, simpler times, one might say.
Do you have any memories of whenever Windows 95 came out? Whenever you first used it, were you impressed, blown away by it?
I was an early user, not necessarily a fan. Like I said, I kind of saw it as like a not so useful GUI that sat on top of DOS. So always been kind of a command line guy in that regard. So I was still running DOS 5.0, and then I think it was like 6.0 that was supported by 95, I want to say. So yeah, that was me back then, and it was only when Windows 98 came out that I was like, okay, I could be somewhat convinced. And then I went to NT, just mostly for business purposes. But like, the 95 days, it was rough going. That's for sure. There weren't besides games, and most of the games actually ran in like DOS 4 GW protected runtime, if anyone remembers that. So that there wasn't a heck of a lot of reason for me to use 95, which is good because it didn't do it.
Yeah, for me it was super impressive just because our family's home computer, we had a IBM. I don't even remember what it was, like a 460, if that even is a thing or whatever. But we just had a normal IBM computer, DOS operated, and then we did what I think a lot of just suburban style families did, is that, hey, this internet thing's a thing, and our family ordered the whole gateway computer package where big white box shows up to your door and it gives you a monitor, your desktop, some speakers, your separate modem, and it's preloaded with Windows 95. And yeah, I remember we got that and it was like, oh my God, this is the future. And of course, the only thing I'm doing it on at the time is getting online, writing stuff in Word, and yeah, trying to play some games. But my parents were very protective of the computer. Even though you could buy games in the store, they didn't want games installed on the computer. It would ruin it. Your stupid games would ruin it.
Back in the day when Doom came on 4 floppy disks.
Exactly. No, so good. Playing Scorched Earth constantly. Do you remember that one?
Yeah. The tank battle.
Exactly. It was so good. A couple of notes I want to talk about is that, and by the way, this information I'm about to read off I just thought it was funny, came from a published article in the New York Times that was published in 1995. and it had a disclaimer at the top that it was originally published in 1995, but it was digitally archived after 1996 when they started doing, so this predates their even online presence, which I was like, awesome. So Windows 95, it launched on August 24th. Like I mentioned, huge promotional campaign, $150 million thrown into it. Partnerships with retailers, most commonly CompUSA. The production of this video, which they cranked out 5 million copies, and they had designated programs on 2 of the shopping networks, QVC and Home Shopping Network. They also had an online version of the introductory ceremonies for Windows 95. So good stuff. To put $150 million in perspective, at the time in 1995, is the yearly budget that PepsiCo would spend on Pizza Hut for promotional stuff. So they were serious, getting this out there, the serious bucks thrown on this. And it's actually 50% more than what Philip Morris spent on advertising for Marlboro, their flagship cigarette. If you bought Windows 95 at CompUSA, you could qualify for a $95 discount on selected American Airlines flights. I thought that was weird. I was like, wait, you buy Windows 95 and you can get $100 off a flight? Well, according to their studies and demographics, the overlay of people who buy, this was ridiculous. The people who buy software perfectly overlay with people who buy airplane tickets.
Seems quite reasonable.
Yeah. The people who buy software perfectly overlay with people who buy burgers or need oxygen or love water, need it to survive. It's just very strange. The production company behind this video, they're called GT Interactive Software. The chief executive and president at the time, Ron Chamowitz, if I'm pronouncing that right, he is quoted as saying, "We have developed what we call a cyber sitcom. Our concept is that if we can bring some entertainment value to instructional videos, we may have found a new genre of product."
Safe to say that one never caught on there.
Nope. They had high hopes for this, and it was just dashed to the rocks. Yeah, so this is... Yeah, I agree with you. This is one for the time capsule, as Chandler Bing would say. Could this be any more 90s? Do yourself a favor, listeners. Scrub through it, watch it a little bit. It is worth just to see all the crazy new features and what we take for granted, and to watch the old hackneyed jokes that just don't fly today. It's a good time capsule, good view into where we were all at in 1995. While I got you, Rob, for a little bit longer, take me through your computer usage. When you were, what is your first memory of having a computer in your home?
Oh my! So, first computer in my house probably was an IBM PS1 preloaded with DOS 4.0, if I remember correctly. So I think it was a 20 meg, not gig, hard drive, which massive at the time.
Yeah,
but running everything off floppies. Let's see. I think I was also still using some Radio Shack. Was it TRS 80s in school with the dual 5 1/4 floppies? Programming in Basic A, and then from there, I think I moved up to 286, and then from there, and time flies. So 95, 98, Windows ME was just kind of one of those things that nobody ever wants to touch or remember, but that was a thing. So yeah, but then from there, I moved over to like the Linux and BSD side of things, Yeah, I think right now, just in terms of desktop architecture, it's so fungible for the most part, since everything's so browser based that those hacking days are long behind us, and the browser wars are one as well. As you mentioned, like sometimes you used to pay for them. Now you have companies competing for your business and for your desktop. So commodification cycle continues.
What was your when you look back? What was your golden era of just nothing but fond memories of being on the computer, either playing games or working? Like, what was the setup?
That probably would have been, gosh, around 97. I think I had a 486, 33, 16 megs of RAM, killer graphics card for the time. I think that summer I probably played Carmageddon for like 7 hours a day, eating copious amounts of sugar, playing Doom on dial-up modem with a buddy of mine who was also the only other person with with Doom and knew how to get that functioning. So yeah, I'd say that was probably the golden era there. Yeah,
I remember one of my jobs, we did a Doom LAN party, and oh my God, just after hours, 10 o'clock news is over, so we just go over to the sales area, use their computers, and just so much fun. Have to use headphones because you got cheaters trying to send rockets everywhere to hear the explosion on your monitors to see if they're getting closer to you, and it's like, stop it, asshole.
On a 10 meg BNC network.
Before we wrap up, Rob, do you have any other notes? Anything else you want to talk about this video?
To be fair, Andy, I think you went into excruciating. I do underline excruciating detail covering this.
Well, I think that's going to do it for us. I think me and Rob are going to hit the big red button. We are going to get sucked into a Windows 95 computer, never to be seen again. Listeners, thank you so much for listening. Wherever you're listening to this, please rate and subscribe. Also, I want to hear from you. Head over to thwack.com and leave us a comment. You can also email us at moviesandmainframes@solarwinds.com. Rob, a huge thank you. Thank you for taking time and talking to me about the Windows 95 video guide.
You bet. Thanks for the invite, and great to see you again, Andy.
And everybody, that'll do it for us. We are going to log off, and until the next time, we will catch you later. Bye, everyone.
Movies
And